The eviction of an elderly tenant in the Villages in Florida turned violent as the 77-year-old tenant attacked the landlord. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Florida, and specifically the Villages in Florida. So for those who don't know about the Villages is basically a 55 and up community that's very, very large. I believe over 100,000 people live there in the state of Florida. I think it's somewhere around Orlando or Tampa, right? Or maybe in between the two, right? So it's a nice retirement community, and so everybody there is older. Okay, they're over the age of 55. I mean, there might be a few people there who are younger than that, but the grand majority are older people. So, obviously you're going to have the same landlord and tenant issues you have anywhere else. But to me, it's just kind of funny when you're reading an article and you're talking about a 77-year-old tenant attacking a landlord. And it's just like, maybe in my mind, I guess people who are older should be wiser and less prone to violence. That's my personal thought, but I guess that's not the case in this story. So anyway, tenant, she was going through the eviction with her landlord. She was not happy with the landlord, decided to attack them, okay? And that led to her being arrested and charges being pressed against her. So yeah, interesting story, but like I say all the time, these are very contentious situations, okay? Some people, they see it as they are losing their home. They don't see themselves in the wrong whatsoever for the fact that they didn't pay their rent, okay? They don't seem to understand that, hey, yeah, that's a big problem and that can lead to you losing your home. Me personally, I would buy other stuff last and pay the rent first. But a lot of people don't see it that way. They're like, oh, well, you know what? We need food. No, you need to pay the rent because you can be hungry and still have a place to live, okay? Anyway, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So have you ever had an elderly tenant who, just you had to evict before? I'm just out of curiosity, okay? I have not. I think the oldest tenant, I've had several tenants I've had to evict, and the oldest one was probably in their 50s, okay? But no one over 60 or 70 years old. I've only had a couple of tenants over that age in most of my units. They're younger people with kids, so it's not very common. So anyway, let me get into the article. Put down your experience with older tenants in the comments down below. This article is coming from villagesnews.com, and it says, court documents detail ugly eviction at rented home in the Villages. All right, and it's a good article because it kind of goes through the details of why these people were having this sort of confrontation and what eventually led to this eviction. Okay, so anyway, let's get into it. Court documents are offering details of an ugly eviction at a rented home in the Villages, resulting in a tenant's arrest. Julie Aileen Schmiersey-Statten, 77, is facing a felony charge of battery following an alleged attack on her landlord during a walkthrough at the rental property at 3942 Zenith Loop in the village of Osceola Hills. The Illinois native remains free on $500 bond. Whew, yeah, so a 77-year-old lady. Obviously, there's more to this story. It's not like the tenant just attacked this lady for nothing. I don't know exactly what the situation was, but she feels that she was wronged, and rather than just facing the fact that she was being evicted, she used physical violence. Not very smart when you're 77 years old. I mean, I don't know how old the landlord is. I mean, they could have been about the same age for, considering this is the Villages. During the pre-scheduled inspection of the home, a property manager was also present due to previous issues, animosity, and tension between the landlord and Schmiersey-Statten. That actually was pretty smart, okay? Having somebody else there to be a witness to this. Still, there were hostile words exchanged, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. Shmirsi Staten became upset trying to explain her perspective and struck the victim with both hands in her right arm chest area, causing her to move backwards. As a result, more words were exchanged, and Shmirsi Staten ordered the landlord and the property manager to leave the premises. They called law enforcement, and Shmirsi Staten was taken into custody. And that's the smart thing to do, okay? Because the person who, one, you had a witness with you. Two, you called law enforcement because, this can easily escalate beyond just a few punches. Remember, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can operate a handgun, and this could turn into a deadly situation, okay? So, just best to take care of it that way. Make sure the police are involved, get a report of it. And as a landlord, especially, because everyone always assumes that we are the aggressor, that we are the guilty party. And, you're doing everything according to the books, everything you should be doing. So, yeah, good call on that one there. However, a document filed in court by Shmirsi Staten and her husband indicate there had been many problems with the rental property. They said they had a dangerous incident involving the glass Whirlpool cooktop stove when Shmirsi Staten was hit with an electrical shock so powerful it knocked her across the floor. A repairman told the renting couple it was a design problem. The landlord suggested splitting the cost of the repair, but the couple insisted on a new stove after researching lawsuits prompted by that particular Whirlpool model. A stalemate ensued, and the couple said they were without a cooktop stove for 7 months. They bought an air fryer, but still spent plenty of money going out to eat or bringing home to-go meals. So yeah, sounds like the tenant was upset because had an issue with this electrical appliance where she received this electrical shock, right? And blamed the landlord for the issue, even though this issue actually falls back on the manufacturer of the product. So landlord offers to repair the stove, and she turns them down, insisting upon a new stove, right? Now, I don't know how most other landlords do business, but the way I do things is I almost always repair things first before I replace them because it is far cheaper, okay? And if the electrical issue was resolved and the thing was safe now, there's no reason to have completely replaced it, okay? So it seems to me that, I'm not saying that she deserved to get shocked or any of that, but it seems to me that she is going beyond... She's asking too much from the landlord, okay? She's asking the landlord replace appliances that don't need to be replaced at a significant cost. And keep in mind that, most landlords, we don't have huge sums of money to be replacing appliances that don't need to be replaced, okay? So let the landlord do their job, fix the problem, and if you don't allow that, that's on you. So you complaining that you had to cook out of an air fryer, well, maybe if you're so concerned about it, buy your own stove. Do you really think that if you pushed the landlord's stove out of the way and then had your own stove installed there, do you think the landlord would be mad at you? I don't. You could probably take the stove with you when you leave too. But simply put, you didn't do that. You said, oh, I'd rather just not have a stove. That's your own fault. The couple also detailed problems with the clothes dryer, smoke detector, and a garage door. The couple claims the landlord owes them in excess of $2,000 for repairs they made to the home. And, couple of things about that, right? I don't understand why a tenant would make repairs if the landlord would do it instead, okay? So this is one of those things where you have conflict between landlords and tenants. They're like, hey, I want you to fix this here, and it's something that's not broken, or it's something that the tenant broke on their own, okay? Well, I want you to replace this stove that doesn't need to be replaced. I want you to fix this thing over here that you broke, that the tenant themselves broke. Well, the landlord has no obligation to do that, okay? And while I agree that you should keep your property well maintained, you know what? there's a lot of things that really irk me, you know, like a tenant going off and saying, oh, well, I put a whole bunch of my personal money into this, so now you need to pay me back. No, you need to notify me of repairs that need to be made, and then I will go out and spend the money to get the repairs done in my way. Period. Okay? So, yeah, I'm going to stand up for this landlord because there's nobody to do it in this article, you know? I mean, obviously, this tenant ended up getting arrested for getting violent, but this whole situation was caused by, I think that the tenant had a inaccurate understanding of the obligations of the landlord. Okay, that's what my personal opinion is what caused this conflict, right? And rather than just leaving, you know, just saying, okay, we're not going to stay in this place anymore and go find somewhere else, you know, it became this whole angry mess that ended up with a fight between a 77-year-old tenant and her landlord. So let me, it says that the landlord, a Village of Gilchrist resident, so landlord also lives in the Villages, so must be over 55, who paid $265,400 for the Zenith Loop home in 2016, claims the couple failed to pay the $2,450 rent due on May 1st. She served a notice of eviction on May 6th. Shmirsi Staten was arrested on May 10th. So yeah, basically the tenant had all these gripes and then refused to pay rent. I'm sure it was because they felt that, oh, well, the landlord isn't doing the repairs. But, you know, there's a process. If you believe the landlord isn't doing things correctly, you need to follow the process. And instead, you ended up getting yourself evicted and then arrested. So yeah, this didn't turn out quite very well for you. Interesting story nonetheless. I'll put a link to this article in the description down below. Let me know what you think of this whole situation with these elderly tenant.